Topic 4-1, blocks and boxes. I've placed some algebra tiles here to represent what you will be filling in for number 1. The blue tile is represented with an x squared. The green bars are represented by an x in a quadratic equation. And the smaller yellow squares are represented by the constant in a quadratic equation. So when you're writing the product of what is represented here with the algebra tiles, you're looking at how many x squared tiles you have, which is 1, and it's understood to be a 1 in front of the x squared when there's not 1 placed there. You have 8 of the x's, and you have 15 of the small constants, counting these 15 number 1s that are in this box. These show plus signs because in later units you can actually use the algebra tiles and turn them over and have some negatives and some positives to cancel out. Okay, let's go ahead and do the next one. You're looking for, oh, we didn't finish the factoring. You're looking for what's common in each row and what's common in each column in order to get to the factored form. What's common here are my x's. My x's are in this column and this way, so that's just one of them. You can think of it like this, separating this whole line in that column, there's only one of them. If I separated each of these out, there would be 5. It's kind of hard to separate. But you're looking at the whole column itself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's why you place a 5 on the outside of your boxes. Over here, there's also one common row here, and then 1, 2, 3. That's why you put a positive 3 on the outside. This becomes the factored form represented in algebra tiles. Okay, so let's just move those out of the way and look at number 2. For number 2, you've got the box shown represented with the x squared. It takes an x and an x to give you an x squared. So that becomes an x with just an x. You look here and say, well, I already have an x. X times what is going to give me 5x, and that would place your 5 out here. Here, you look at, you already have an x. It's 3 times this x that will give you 3x. 3 times 5 will give you 15. You have now formed your factored form on the outside of your box. The trinomial you form by combining the like terms. 5x and 3x is 8x. So you keep it for, and you keep the 15 and the x squared represented here and here. Okay, let's fill in number 3. What would it take to get an 2x squared and also an x? We are going to, at the top, have, let's see, that could be an x, because you couldn't put a 2 here because there's not a 2 there. So your 2 has to go on this side because you can multiply 2 times something to get 8. So this one's a little bit tricky. When there's a number in front of the x squared, you've got to kind of glance at the whole problem before you start filling in the outside of the box. 2x times what would give me 8x, you think about, and that's a positive 4. What times x is x? Just a 1. And that checks out because 1 times this 4 gives you this 4. And again, this is a positive. So filling in your product and factors, you've got 2x squares, combine like terms. You've got an 8x here and a 1x here, so that's 9x, and then you have your 4. You've already gotten the factors by placing these numbers on the outside, 2x plus 1 and x plus 4. Alright, looking at the last one on this page, you've got a 4x squared, a 10x, a 2x, and a 5. Well, you kind of have to look at this and say, if I put a 4 here, I can't get 4 multiplied by anything to get a 2. And if I put the 4 here, there's nothing times 4 that's going to give me 10. So look at another factor of 4 that would work for both this row and this column. And you would discover that would be a 2x. So 2x times 2x is 4x squared. 2x times what would give me 10x? And this would be a 5. What times this 2x is going to give you this 2x? That's just a 1. That checks out because 1 times 5 is 5. And again, make sure you remember all these for the time being, or we're still working with just positive numbers. Your factored form for your product, your product is the 4x squared. Combine the 10x and the 2x to get the 12x plus 5. That's your trinomial. Your factored form, these are called, I don't think I've mentioned it yet, binomials. You've created two expressions that have two terms, and that's called a binomial. So you have a 2x plus 5 on the top and a 2x plus 1 along the side over here. We'll do a couple more. You're going to get good at these boxes the more we do. Okay, so let's try the next page. You've got the boxes already filled in. So I went ahead and filled in this page, but let's walk through it so that you will understand what to do. Because I haven't placed anything on the outside of these nor the inside down here. Okay, so we're looking at the negative signs in these that didn't have on the front page. You've got to make sure you take the negative side and place the negative side on the outside of the box also. So on this first one, this has to be a negative sign that's going to give you a product of 6x, a negative 6x. So let's look closely. If I put a, well, for now let's just do x and x for the outside for the top part. Again, you're looking at multiplying these two to get that. Whatever's out here times this to get this square. Whatever we place out here and here to get the bottom square, whatever you place here and here matches up to get the product of this square. So what times an x is going to give me a negative 6x? That would be a negative 6. What times x is going to give you a negative 9x? A negative 9. And notice here you've got a negative 9 times a negative 6 will give you a positive 54. So this is how you'd write the factored form. Alright, look at this one. You've got your 2x. Combining a 10x and a negative 7x is going to give you a positive 3x. Review your integer rules. Minus 35. The factored form, let's break this down. If I put a 2 here, there's nothing times 2 that's going to give me a negative 7. But if I put a 2x here, there is something I can multiply to get a 10. So look carefully when you start with the very first box of where you're going to put your factors. This times a 5 would give me 10. And then, of course, I'm going to have a negative 7 here to get a negative 7x. And then this will be negative when you multiply negative 7 times a positive 5 gives you a negative 35. You've created the factored form 2x minus 7 and x plus 5. Let's go ahead and put our plus signs. Okay, here we're doing it in steps of this process. We're factoring by putting the numbers in the correct position in each row, write the product, and write the factors. I have already filled it out for you. Just know that your x squares go in the first box. Your constants go in the box diagonally to that one. And then placing these in the correct place is important to get the right factored form that's going to give you a positive 2x. So you have to be careful when you're looking at how this works. If you put an 8x here, let's do that. We'll put the 8x here and the negative 6x. It's good to use a pencil because you may end up having to change these. You just know that one of them's got to be negative. The 8 has to be positive in order to get a positive 2x. The factored form of this would be x and x. And then the factored, of course, would be an 8 here and a negative 6. 3x squared, 70. Knowing where to put each one. Notice that if I put a 10x here, there's not anything you're going to be able to multiply by 3 and the same factor of 10. So let's see. The negative 21x would go here. Negative 10x could go here. This could be our x. And you subtract 71. 3, because you needed your 3 here. And then the negative 10 would get us the negative 10x. And of course, negative 10 times negative 7 is a positive 70. And that concludes 4-1.